I am very pleased to welcome to the show Malcom Kyeyune. He is resident of a citizen of Sweden, so many of you probably won't know of his work. Some of you will, I think, because he is also a regular contributor to the What's Left podcast, and we've had Amy Therese and Oliver Bateman from that podcast on the show. Malcolm, you're also a columnist in Sweden, longtime sort of political activist doing the work, as Oliver would say.
Yeah, I've done my fair share of the work in the cake economy.
And you're also on the steering committee of Oikos, which is I guess is it fair to say a right of center think tank in Sweden?
Yes, I mean it bills itself as conservative, but it should be pointed out that this word means something fairly different in Europe than it does in the US. So conservative in the US is like more of the establishment right, but because especially in Sweden, like the establishment right has used the word borgerlig, which literally translates into like bourgeois, but not with like the Marxist connotations. And so conservative here is kind of a new term that kind of like, if you want an American sort of example of something similar, I guess the Edmund Burke Foundation or whatever it's called, like the national conservatism thing with Yoram Hasani and so on. Like it's more in that vein, actually.
So this is for people who don't know you. I mean, this is sort of interesting. Well, it's actually really interesting. But you're somebody who, in your political work, has been more associated with the left. But here you've got this sort of institutional relationship with folks on the national national conservatism right in Sweden. How did that come about, and why is that?
I mean, it's kind of a sign of our times in some ways, because like I came up in the youth wing of the Swedish Left Party, and it's literally called Vänsterpartiet, so the Left Party. Like even after leaving the Left Party, I was part of like the broader cultural and political milieu of the left. And ultimately what got me sort of kicked out, and this is something that has happened to a lot of people, including Amy Therese, which you've had on the pod, is not really going like, oh, well, wait, I love the free market now, I love privatizations or whatever. It's more that, in my case, I wrote something that was even more harmless than Angela Nagel's The Left Case Against Open Borders. I just wanted to sort of analyze why the left never really did as well with immigrants as they thought they should do. And my argument was essentially that like all immigrants aren't the same thing. There's, to put it in American terms, there's a difference between someone from Mexico and someone from Puerto Rico. Like shock and horror, but that is true. And also, there's a difference between someone who, comes in from, let's say, Mexico and runs a store, and someone who is also an immigrant, but who makes his living robbing stores. Like, materially speaking, the way they reproduce themselves economically is counterposed. But this was a bridge too far at that point. So I think what I demonstrated by writing that wasn't necessarily that I was saying something like wrong, but rather that I wasn't a team player, because how it works, and this has only gotten worse in the last 5-6 years, is that in order to be on the left, you don't necessarily have to be very smart. You don't have to have any sort of analysis. You don't have to do the work even, but you definitely have to be conformist. You have to conform to the narratives that are decided upon, even if those narratives are a lie.